That she's got to pick up. That was the right distance. He's hit that out of the ground. That's another one. Goodness gracious me, that peppered the top. You see the chap climbing up there to have a look over the wall. 52 in 29 minutes. That's another one up in the enclosure. 3 balls, 3 sixes, 58. What a incredible bit of hitting. Oh, he's got the shorter one. It's up again. There it is, bouncing on the concrete. 4 sixes in 4 balls. This makes him 64. 4 sixes. Wonder where Nash is going to bowl this one. And that will just carry. Now he's going to be out. Caught out. Oh, he drops it over the boundary. 6 it is. 5 on the trot. Oh, this is incredible. Now, this is 6 on the trot's a world record. Been done before, but 70 on the board. And he's done it! He's done it! And my goodness, it's gone way down to Swansea. And that she's got to pick up. That was the right distance. He's hit that out of the ground. That's another one. Goodness gracious me, that peppered the top. You see the chap climbing up there to have a look over the wall. 52 in 29 minutes. That's another one up in the enclosure. 3 balls, 3 sixes, 58. What an incredible bit of hitting. Oh, he's got the shorter one. It's up again. There it is, bouncing on the concrete. 4 sixes in 4 balls. This makes him 64. 4 sixes. Wonder where Nash is going to bowl this one. And that will just carry. Now he's going to be out. Caught out. Oh, he drops it over the boundary. 6 it is. 5 on the trot. Oh, this is incredible. Now, this is 6 on the trot's a world record. Been done before, but 70 on the board. And he's done it! He's done it! And my goodness, it's gone way down to Swansea. 6 on the trot. 36 in 1 over. My goodness gracious, what an over.
Who's the greatest cricketer on earth or Mars? Anyone can tell you it's the great Sir Garfield Sobers. This handsome Barbadian lad really knows his work. Batting or bowling, he's the cricket king. No joke, 3 cheers for Captain Sobers. Win or lose, the spectators are always pleased with the greatest team on earth. Who else but the West Indies? Men like Butcher, Joe Solomon, Canaya Davis, and Nelson Rodriguez, Conrad Hunt and White Gibbs, and the wicket-keeper Hendricks. Australia, you lost. The West Indies is past the trophy. Belong to us. I say you lost, you know you lost, yeah. Australia, speak your mind. Australia, don't mind you lost. Better luck next time. Joker sent down crash helmet to protect the batsman from Hall and Charlie Griffith. I felt so sorry for Simpson. He tried but in vain. Griffith and Hall, wickets had to fall like rain. 3 cheers for Hall and Griffith. O'Neill went Australia making big riot. When he was facing Griffith and Hall, he so gloomy quiet. When O'Neill hit real fast bowling, is to see him ducking. And then the very guy telling so much lie, telling the world how Griffith chucking. Australia, you lost the West Indies, it's lost the trophy belong to us. I say you lost it, you know you lost it. Australia, stick you blind. Australia, don't mind you lost. Better luck next time. From the time the series started in Jamaica, we proved that Australia was strong, but only on paper. The 4 tests in Barbados, they full the scoreboard. Rohan and Seymour carry up we score. Oh Lord, 3 cheers for Nelson Kanai. Special praise to Conrad Hunter. Brian Davis, Solomon, Lance Gibbs, Hendricks and Bassett Butcher. All the boys fought gallantly under Sober's captaincy. So hip 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 hooray for a glorious victory. Australia, you lost the West Indies. He's the cricket king, no joke. 3 cheers for Captain Sobers. We don't lose the spectators are always pleased. With the greatest team on earth, who else but the West Indies? Men like Butcher, Joe Solomon, Kanai Davis, and Nelson Rodriguez, Conrad Hunt and White, Gibbs, and the wicket keeper Hendricks. Australia, you lost the West Indies, it's past the trophy belong to us. I say you lost it, you know you lost it. Australia, stick you blind. Australia, don't mind you lost. Better luck next time. Them Australian jokers sent down crash helmet to protect the batsman from Hall and Charlie Griffith. I felt so sorry for Simpson. He tried but in vain. Griffith and Hall, wickets had to fall like rain. 3 cheers for Hall and Griffith. O'Neill went Australia making big riot. When he was facing Griffith and Hall, he so gloomy quiet. When O'Neill hit real fast bowling, is to see him ducking. And then the very guy telling so much lie, telling the world how Griffith chucking. Australia, you lost the West Indies, it's lost the trophy belong to us. I say you lost it, you know you lost it. Australia, stick you blind. Australia, don't mind you lost. Better luck next time. From the time the series started in Jamaica, we proved that Australia was strong, but only on paper. The 4 tests in Barbados, they full the scoreboard. Rohan and Seymour carry up we score. Oh Lord, 3 cheers for Nelson Kanai. Special praise to Conrad Hunter. Brian Davis, Solomon, Lance Gibbs, Hendricks and Bassett Butcher. All the boys fought gallantly under Sober's captaincy. So hip 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 hooray for a glorious victory. Australia, you lost the West Indies, his boss warring trophy belong to us. I say you lost it, you know you lost, come on. Australia, stick you blind. Australia, don't mind you lost. Better luck next time.
A little boy born in the bowels of poverty, like so many of us. He came from the nigger yard of yesterday and to the world of tomorrow. He turned with his strength, walking out of a little wooden home in one of the stops, one of the first stops that the slave ships made. The first stop in what is now the West Indies. The slave ships would stop in Barbados. And somewhere, some black woman and some black man was sold into slavery. But that woman and that man were the seeds of the greatest artist, as Sparrow said, not just on Earth, but on Mars. Ordinary boy, but with a ball in his hand and a bat made of wood. He became the most extraordinary human being. Today, we mourn the loss of Gary Sobers, Garfield St. Alban Sobers. Gary, Sir Gary, did anything with a ball and with a bat. Beat back colonialism and slavery. Won the war. As Sir Frank Worrell left with a set of young men to go to Australia in 1960-61, C.L.R. James gave him a note. He didn't open it. And when he got to Australia, he opened it. And the note said, if you can conquer Australia, it will tell the world we're ready for independence. So Frank Worrell team, there was a young man who had already announced to the world that he could go beyond the boundaries. With his collar up and with a swag. The African becoming West Indian, but not losing Africa. Them little boys think it's they now turning up the collar, they invented it. They think when the swag is they invented it. Garfield Sobers been swagging since 1954 as a 16-year-old. Batting at number 9 as a left-arm spinner. 5 years later at Sabina Park, He broke the record of Leonard Hutton, 365. Never looked back. And all those years, carrying the West Indies, the old West Indies and the new Caribbean on his shoulders. Never, ever shirking his responsibility. When he went to Rhodesia and he came back and Burnham told him you couldn't go to Rhodesia and come to play unless you apologize. So Gary apologized. Good evening. As I keep saying, I want, if I come back in this world, don't send me anywhere to be born. Else, I want to be born in the Caribbean. Perhaps not Guyana if you don't want me to be born there. But let me born in St. Kitts or Barbados or somewhere. I love being a West Indian. To be a West Indian is to be a genius. The genius of Gary Sobers, the genius of Sobers who immortalized it, the genius of Bob Marley. The genius of Beryl McBurney of Trinidad, dancing our way into freedom. The genius of Miss Louise Bennett. Colonization in revolt. Hey, 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 me darling love, me little dove, me dumpling, me gizzada, me sweetie Sue, a ghost for you like how fly ghosts. Hey! Man shall not live by bread alone. David Hines hardly like his back. He like poetry too, because he know it. He didn't stop reading. He like Calypso too, because he know it. He didn't stop listening. We are a people of incomparable, or some of you may say uncomparable, whatever parable. We are the geniuses of the post-colonial world. Telling a story with our hands, with our voices, with a bat, with a ball, with our bodies. Martin Carter says, we are the world's hope. And so therefore I rise again. I rise again for freedom. It's a white road with green grass like love. Out of my time, I carve a monument. Out of a jagged block of convict years, I carve it. The sharp knife of dawn glitters in my hand. The sharp knife of dawn was that bat and that ball in Gary Sobers' hand. We send him back to the ancestors, knowing that he is taking us to another plateau. Gary, so Gary, you ice your bundle and you go away. You catch a first plane this morning and you go away. You catch a first boat and you go away. Swimming back to the shores of Africa. Taking tides of genius back to the ancestors that they can send another one like you. Good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Tonight we have Amanza Walton and Dr. Adams. Dr. Adams is more intimately related to Gary Sobers than I, because he walked on the sacred soil with bat in hand. Sometimes you all don't understand your genius. You all turn to other people to liberate you all. not knowing if they liberate you, they come back tomorrow and say, give me back a liberation. Lyndon, good evening. I have two of your own people here. And I've been telling you all, Georgetown, Brooklyn, then Lyndon. There's my 3 top city with viewership. The cradle of the working class that they broke up when they remove bauxite. The industrial working class smelling the bauxite dust. Smelling that smoke. Building a reservoir of resistance. I'm saying these things because I could say it. I fear no man, to quote Dr. King. I ain't trading my dignity for votes. Gary Sobers did not trade his dignity. They bowled him 6 ball, he knocked all for 6. And then he swagged down the wicket. I'm an African, born in Buxton, in a place called Guyana of the West Indies and the Caribbean. I embrace all of me because that's what Sobers did. He catch, he bowl, front of the hand, back of the hand, he bowl fast, he bowl slow. They say when Lance Gibbs bowl, you used to then you pack it. Backward short leg. And he was the leader. After the Federation, the West Indies captain became the Prime Minister of the Caribbean. Once you all understand, you all come from greatness. Cede not an inch. Good night, Lynette, my country girl. Good night, Eve. Good night, Cherry Jeffrey. You all come out for listening, Amanza. Me and Vincent was there Friday night, some of y'all just absent. I use Shanghai, but I get good Shanghai and bad Shanghai. Me want to with the good Shanghai. Bad Shanghai, kakai. All right, Shelly. All right, Shelly. All right. Good evening, Vincent. Good evening, Amanza. I am a wayward child. Wayward bad. And I don't want you all to be responsible for my waywardness. So it's up to you all.
No, I'll follow your whatever waywardness or not. You know, you forget to mention the genius of Dr. David Hines.
The seed, that genius only could occur because of Gary Sobers.
Well, you're the only.
It's a collective genius born of the seed of Garfield Sobers.
You're the only person who could give such a gripping tribute to the greatest cricketer that ever lived. You know, the way that you weave the history and the politics and the culture and everything else, and you know, the value of West Indies cricket to the West Indies. You are the only person who can do that. So, you know, cheers to your genius.
I have to echo the sentiment. I was sitting here and getting very, very emotional because Dr. Hines has a way with words and poetry and historical concepts. The man could give a tribute. It took me back to when he gave a tribute to Rupert Roopnarine. You got to hear that. You've got to hear that. It is And he said some things that really, I think a lot of people forget. And it's a pity that we're developing a generation that lack the patience for these kinds of thinking and thoughts. Because he spoke about Martin Carter and he spoke about Sir Garfield. And there's a reason why history remembers these people and will always remember them. You live in a time now where we're in a microwave generation. We want everything fast. We don't deal with depth. We believe that that the people say top. This thing is deep and it is out of that depth. If a tree must grow tall, its roots must go all the way down. And so, yeah, Dr. Adams, I have to agree with you. I enjoyed listening to that. I enjoyed
Yep.
listening to
Yep.
Amanza, I'll stay with you.
that.
Since thanks to those accolades, and as I said before, you know, we all come from the hood. Some of
Mhm.
us left a little bit earlier than others, but we are constantly being fed by the history of the hood. If we can get it for breakfast, we get it for lunch. If we can get it for lunch, we get it for dinner.
You know.
And in Guyanese parlance, if we can get it for breakfast and dinner, we get it for tea. We create our own thing. Tea, breakfast, and dinner. We make lunch into breakfast.
Well, don't forget, in cricket, tea is at 20 to 4 in the
In the
afternoon also.
afternoon. So if white people could disarrange and rearrange tea, we West Indians could do it too. And we did it.
I have
Tea,
West Indian tea.
that's
But you know what's amazing? Tea time has never changed. It's still 3:40 in the afternoon.
yes,
20 minutes
yes,
to tea. Still hadn't changed.
yes. And the West Indian cricketer, instead of going in and having a cup of tea, he would come out on the field and take a nap. Change up the concept of tea. The white people, they go in and they drink some tea. Tea. Adams, Vincent Adams, and then don't go drink tea. They drink the tea in the morning. Right? So at 3 o'clock, when you're supposed to have tea, them boys up in the corner, taking a knocking up, ready to go out and do battle again with the bat in hand. Amanza, you, I know, have been paying attention to the developments in our Guyana. And there is something in the Guyanese political psyche. We are West Indians. We are Caribbean people. But we have, when it comes to politics, an attitude to politics that is distinctly Guyanese. We asleep. Your eyes shut tight, you snore. And then when a little breeze pass, and you start talking, you sleep. We have a way in Guyana of talking in our sleep. Mr. Mohammed, he going in front of us, this is what corruption looks like. And people say, yes, like. And then one day, he said, this is what corruption like. And he showed a farm. And Guyanese start talking their sleep. They start, why is it, Amanza, that Mohammed been showing what corruption look like all the time? And I will watch, but I must snore. Then I wake up. And this one, they start talking their sleep and then they open their eye bright. Why? You're bright. You go to the big schools, you liar, and so on and thing. Explain for me.
I venture to say that different people are awake for different reasons.
Uh-huh.
Some are awake to defend the indefensible. Some are awake because of just the sheer vulgarity of what is happening, particularly with um, the agricultural sector and the way it is being underdeveloped, etc. And here you have the chief public servant having, for example, a temperature controlled um, chicken house, hen house. So I think it's the sheer vulgarity of it. And then you have a group of people, like I said before, are awake to defend it. Oh, he always likes farming and he always like farm and you're jealous and you're petty. And I refrained from speaking about this for a very long time because I was fascinated by our response to this. Because nobody is saying that the president shouldn't have a farm. I don't think that's the problem that anybody has. And I don't think anybody is saying that him farming in and of itself is bad per se. But the problem is that you are the chief public servant and you owe the people of Guyana an explanation as to how you did this. You don't think, let's stretch it to the farthest, you don't think the people of Guyana deserve to know how you were able to develop this so that maybe they could do it themselves? Just let's take it to that extent. And then, how did you come about this? Oh, the president did this, the president did that. As far as I can recall, the president has always been a public servant. He was a minister before, the minister of housing, if you recall. And then he became the president, and prior to that, he was in parliament. So he has always been a public servant. So this is not a businessman that has gotten into politics. This is somebody who has been a public servant for maybe 90% of his professional life. And I keep making the point, Dr. Hines, that he doesn't owe the leader of the opposition an explanation. He owes the people of Guyana an explanation. And so these attempts to excuse it, I think it rubs people the wrong way. It is crass. I think because Guyanese are struggling to find housing for themselves, to get a 50 by 80, you got to jump through hoops. And here is one man, and there's nothing wrong with you owning acreage. But as a chief public servant, man, you can't be doing this, and the people that you stored over, the resources that you stored over are not being equitably distributed to your population. Why must a Guyanese jump through hoops to get a house lot? It is unfair. It is unconscionable. And I think that is what rubs people the wrong way. Just the way that the Guyanese people are suffering, and the way that you have $1 billion farm and you expect us to believe that about $60 million in loans could develop a $5 billion farm. It is an insult to our intelligence. And I think that is what you see people rebelling against.
Vincent, United take the thing to places which are not always politically
comfortable.
Yes, yeah. And you were on last week, and I made the point that Burnham and Jagan and them chap, it won't occur to them when they're president and so on, prime minister, to go and build a big farm. It won't be part of their consciousness. All right? It may be in their subconscious, but it would never be in their consciousness because their view of the world came through different lenses. And somebody sent me a comment on my comment. Some of them Indian people beating me up. And they said, born at a farm next door to the botanic gardens. Well, the truth of the matter is that Mrs. Burnham had a cow farm. She used to mind cow and so on near to the gardens. But it is the obscene corners that leaders push people. Now, clearly these are PPP supporters. They know better. That's why I wouldn't think they know better. But by your nasty action, you push your own people to insanity. Because to talk about a farm near to Botanic Gardens and a 150 acres land is forcing your people to defend you, but in the process of defending you, becoming insane, politically insane. Amanza, I don't want you to think because the last time you talked that they roast you when you try to get in to the minds of the
But they're trying to roast me.
they try for you. Let me know I'm saying it. It happens, and so we sometimes, as a country, as a totality, miss moments because it's half the country saying this thing is obscene. The next half, no, it's obscene, but not saying it's obscene. And who is it? Samuel Selvon used to say, I mean, we are not Caribbean if we can laugh at ourselves, right? At the way in which we move and so forth. Talk to me, Vincent, about this moment and the way. Look, we talk about sobers, eh? C.L.R. James, in describing sobers, he said sobers was the fusion of time, place, and person. He came at a particular time, decolonization and independence. He was born in a post-colonial society, small islands in the West Indies, but critical to the evolution of the modern world, Capitalism and Slavery by Eric Williams. He said, but sobers, not only there was a fusion of time and place, but as the person sobers, he had the capacity to absorb the energies of the time and place. So he described sobers as the embodiment of that fusion of time, place, and person. And I think sometimes in Guyana and the Caribbean, we don't look at fusions. We see things linear, linear, straight, one way. And we don't look at fusions. And they were reminding me in Buxton that everybody get a little farm, mind the chicken, mind the duck, mind the fowl, they will mind something. So there is a almost organic relationship to farming in whatever thing. So nobody ever read and spell for them when it comes to farm. And when they look through the window and they see their little farm, the little garden, the 100 chicken, and you're telling them here about mega billions, that fusion already occurred in their minds. And so therefore they took this expose by Muhammad to another level. Talk to me there.
Well, you see that's why I like being on programs with people like you and our MP Amanza. You guys trigger some words in my mind. I've been looking for some apt description of this thing. So when I hear vulgarity, I mean, it could not have been described any better. And just everything that the MP said is absolutely on point. But what even more so, and the MP alluded to it, it's not only the vulgarity, which adds to the vulgarity more than anything else to me. People are not stupid. And I believe it's just the impasse of them believing that people are stupid and they can get away with anything. People can see and understand the disparity of the wealth distribution across this nation. And especially when you tell us through one piece of your mouth, go do this, go build wealth, and then, here I'm going to give you, everybody should apply for a piece of land, a plot of 50 by 80, whatever the piece of, and then you got to wait years, and you better have connection. So while the people who came up with very little means, while they're waiting for years, here you are having a piece of property that can hold, somebody made the calculations, over 2,000 plots of land. That's what the number of piece of plots of land that land can be used for. And so people are not stupid. They can see that where the wealth is. Had everybody been where, let's say, our money has been equitably distributed, I'm not sure people would have, it would have, this or would have mattered. So on top of that is the stupidity and the incompetence of the politicians. Who you but again, it's the abuse, and it's taking people for granted and thinking that people are stupid. But it's even beyond that. It's the fact that in this country, the people, trust me, the people they want to speak out, but they can't. They can't, because of the intimidation and the retribution if anybody raise their head. And they take the government, these folks, the leadership knows that, and they take advantage of it, and they abuse that understanding. So this year it comes to light. And let me say one thing, and again, this is not no ordinary. This is the chief. This is the chief official of this country that should follow the law, set an example. Look, when I hear and I saw and read people writing saying that if you accuse, you've got to prove. This is absolute nonsense. In no rule of law country. That's why we rank 76 out of 144 countries with a score of 50 out of 100 when it comes to following the rule of law. Let me tell you, and in the United States, in the government where I worked, there are, for every government agency, there is, I think it's like 12. It's an independent agency that is independent to do investigations, and they have a 24/7 hotline. And anybody that calls in, all they've got to do is see or suspect that a government official is involved in any kind of corruption, and they would call. I was part twice. I was investigated without even knowing. You know what was one of those? We could not even take like a soda from a contractor. And of course, every month, or so, you would go out and have as head of the government project, I would go have a beer or dinner or something with the president of the company. And one night I was out there in the restaurant that we normally do, and a stranger, but they were all part of that community. Nobody, not even working at the plant, I don't think, saw us having drinks and called the inspector. The office is called the Inspector General Office. Calling the Inspector General Office in his 24/7 hotline. And the next thing I knew, we had the Inspector General's office descended upon my site, my state. I was not even aware of. It was when I went back to that restaurant a few days after, the waitress came up to me and tell me, we had some people here from government officials with badges, and they were asking for receipts. So they wanted to see. So it's a lucky thing they of course they saw the receipt, and they saw that I paid for my stuff. So these are the kinds of things that. So when I hear people saying, "Well, you got to prove," as a matter of fact, I had recommended to President Granger that we set up such an office, Inspector General Office, where people can just call in. You don't have to prove anything. Call in, and if it sounds credible, the Inspector General Office, this is independent of the chain of command. They report directly to the president, but of course, reporting directly to this president, I don't know if that would work. But anyway, so when I hear people say, "Well, if you're accused, you've got to prove that," that's absolute rubbish. In any diplomatic conduct, and people would understand it and trust. This here is about trust. The people do not trust this government, and that's what's causing all the uproar now in terms of people being awakened by what.
Yeah, Natasha, young lady from my village, she texted me yesterday and she said, "Mommy, she mother, tell you that." Orphanally, pig, and chicken, and black belly sheep. Then I wear condom. It took me a minute because you all know about Nancy's story when people dead, and there's a Nancy story about this man he get foul, but all of them a woman foul. So he buy a foul cock. He buy a foul cock, put the foul cock in the pen. The foul cock a tread. But the lady fold and I lay. He study here. Then he said he discover the full cock away French letter. So the moral of the story is that some people fold pen too poor for grow. And they had other people, them fold pen, and lay, they get privilege. And that lady, she just said, she said, Mommy said for tell you that finally sheep and he come and he pick them. Then I wear condom. But when you have, because people in there who mind in the little fold, that just tell me they're in the village. You buy 100, you got cater for 10, 15 go dead. Then you got for cater for so. So by the time you get down to it, of the 100 chicken, you really 75 you're dealing with. By the time you get. So people have a keen sense of worth and value. So since they heard the farm story, they already look inwards and look at their own experiences.
Yep.
And the revulsion that they don't understand. That is why they're saying, you are the state. And you are telling citizens that they must provide evidence. What craziness? Amanza, come in.
You know, again, just it's just the vulgarity.
Yes.
Now, you read some time ago in some cables that were declassified about the fact that 2 prior U.S. ambassadors had received gifts from PPP ministers, and they had to be turned in.
Yep.
When they returned to the U.S., and that a gift that Irfan Ali, I think, had given to Joe Biden, had to be turned in, because those are the broad parameters within which they operate as a matter of law and function. And no system is perfect, but there is a bare minimum level of accountability. And I think very often people want to throw out the baby with the bathwater because they can point to imperfections in that system too. They say, it's all corrupt. I don't agree that you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to develop a minimum standard operation as it relates to public officials and their assets, right? Not because people, I am a lawyer, I could work, I can, I have a legal practice. And so there are explanations that could be given. But you should, by all means, give them, because you owe that to the people of Guyana as a as a public servant and as somebody that operates in the National Assembly. This is why the Integrity Commission was formed, to make sure that public officers declare their assets and that people are satisfied. The people of Guyana, the taxpayers, the teacher that goes to work every day to teach our children, and then got to go home and mind your own children, and we take out PAYE at the end of the month. The nurse that goes to the hospital, understaffed, overworked nurse, and we take out PAYE from her at the end of the month. Those are the taxpayers on whose backs this country is built, and those are the people that deserve answers. And how dare Irfan Ali get on the television and the social media to lecture us and to try to red herring us by looking at Azruddin Mohammed and whatever his antecedents were. The character of the person asking does not necessarily negate the question being asked, and it doesn't absolve him from answering the question. And so he must answer the question. He said, he would lay evidence and he would show Where is it? Where is it? Because one on one in making two in the situation, and everybody knows that. And oh, we must trust them. Freddie Kissoon said the president called him and show him his papers. So I guess we could all move on now because Freddie has seen the papers. It's utter hogwash. And I will venture to say this, Dr. Hines and Dr. Adams. You talk about politicians putting people in corners. Nobody can put me in a corner.
Good.
You have to. I said earlier on your previous show, we have a crisis of civic imagination. And people are allowing themselves to be led either by the fact that they got to survive, either by the fact that they've decided, you know what, this system is already so broken and I might as well get in where I fit in and drink some of the soup.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to tell people who are independent thinkers and who can think for themselves that something is wrong with you. You're stupid. You're this. Why you just don't go with the flow? Why? So the bondage that we find ourselves in, I want to submit, is of our own making. Is of our own making. Nobody put we in bondage. We have literally lift up ourselves and put ourselves into it by refusing to do better, by refusing to hold those accountable, to account those in authority, by holding them to account. And it incenses me more than you can understand, because I know that right now, Doc, times are so hard in Guyana. The businessmen are crying out. The contractors are not being paid on time. They got contracts from last year that people have executed and have not been paid. But you know what? They're not going to say anything because guess what? Well, you know, we don't want to speak and jeopardize the little bit that we get in before we don't get any. The teachers can't afford to go in the market. You got 3 Belanje for $1,200 in the market. 3 little bygones. So how are Guyanese existing and living? It is hard out there. People are going to bed hungry. And you have the president with a farm that could feed maybe half the population.
Amanza Walton here tonight. Doc, let me take you in a next direction.
But before we go in the next direction,
Go ahead.
let me add to the perspective here. And I think I said this, and this here is important. And I think we talked about this last week. This here is not just a one-off thing. Okay, it's part of the culture. It's part of the culture of this party. And you can even go for, look, you remember the president himself said that, oh, there are many others who've got a whole bunch of land also. Mr. Nandalal said on Thursday morning, I couldn't believe it. Mr. Nandalal said, well, it's not 155, it's 60. And 60 is not any big piece of property. He said that 60 acres is a small piece of property. You know, when people are fighting like hell to get a little 60 by 40 feet or whatever the heck it is. But here is the problem, and people are seeing through these type of things. It's part of the bigger scheme to enrich all themselves and friends and family. Don't forget that there's a bill being put forward right now for unlimited benefits for the same president who's got this big farm and everything else that who is maybe being subsidized by the taxpayers or built by the taxpayers. Oh God, how much more do you want to now put forward a bill? Look at Jagio's mansion and whatever else assets he had. You're gonna put forward a bill to have unlimited benefits basically, plus what you have. No, oh man, the taxpayers are seeing that. Why? You have 58% are in poverty, and I believe that number is even higher and is going to get higher. You've got those people struggling for a little piece of land, and you're telling me you've got all this land making billions. By the way, and I don't know if there's rumors that the beef and stuff and poultry and everything coming out today is being sold to Exxon. But my point is that's even contributing to the inflation and the prices.
Exactly.
So on top of that now, so you're making possibly a whole lot of money right now, millions or billions. And then on top of that, when you retire now, you still want to have unlimited richness on the taxpayers' backs. That people are not stupid. They're seeing these type of things and understanding it.
And I'm so glad that both you and Amanza went there, because here is the government, which according to our constitution should be looking after the welfare of its citizens. Every constitution in the world has that clause inside, that the government, the state, is supposed to look after the welfare of the citizens. And part of the welfare of the citizens is to help them to mitigate high cost of living, high prices in the market, etc., etc. That's the role of the state. The state has been dragging its feet on this, and now we are finding out that the head of the state could, through his economic ventures, could be affecting the prices on the market.
I think that's an important thing for people to understand, that he is literally skewing the economics and affecting the other farmers who may not have land of that scale. Now, Dr. Adams said something and it made me laugh when he talked about Anil Nandlal talking about people who have land. And Amanza Walton name has been called as the people. So, when you think about the fact that what these people are alluding to is a house lot that I purchased in Linden, a house lot that I, who grew up in Linden, purchased in Linden. And it shows that they have this way that they obfuscate things and throw names in there to mix up different things. Different people have different acreages for all kinds of things. You got people who got acreage for forestry, and therefore they're large acreages that they hold on their leases or whatever to do forestry, to do mining, etc. This is prime real estate on the Linden Highway in the middle of the development corridor, with a venture that is undermining the economic and particularly the agro sector. And I think it is important for people to contextualize things, because you know what I am concerned about? And the wicked, vindictive PPP, they're wicked enough, and Nandlal and them are wicked enough to try to use this to go after people who may hold lands legitimately for other economic purposes. Yes. And then say, oh, y'all were crying out, missing the point that this is the president we are talking about, that is paid by taxpayers and has a constitutional responsibility to take care of the people of Guyana, that is engaging in business ventures that are undercutting Guyanese who are trying to make a living. And I think that context is important.
Context is important.
Yes, since you mentioned Nandlal, because Nandlal, he just can't help himself. His mouth runs, and he should put his foot in his mouth most of the time. Even in this program, could you believe that? You know what that man said in his program this Thursday? He said, well, some of them saying that I got 40 properties. However, it's not 40. Well, tell us how much it is. Now, I'm hoping that somebody is going to pick up on that, because now he put his foot in his mouth to expose, well, instead of staying quiet about it, he said, but it's the arrogance. He said, somebody mentioned that I've got 40, but it's not, I've got some, but it's not 40. Well, just as how you don't want to say it's 155, tell us exactly what that number is. You're the Attorney General, and people are accusing you somehow that you're not in the up and up in terms of how you get in this property. Clear your name and say whatever it is. Is it 20? Is it 30? But you say it's not 40. Is it 39? You know what I mean? But that's the kind of I could not believe instead of him. But he that's how he is. He always put his foot in his mouth. And I'm hoping that this year that becomes the next house gate or land gate.
But gentlemen, what they will do is this. They are going to put a lot of their holdings in other people's name and retain beneficial interests.
Yeah.
And so unless and until the legal framework requires you to declare, in the way the US recently passed, beneficial interests in property, you're going to see them beginning to divest themselves. And
Yeah.
once they have divested themselves to a particular level, then they're going to start calling for the Integrity Commission to make these holdings known. Because if they do it now, it will be so obscene that every Guyanese will be out in the street. Dr. Hines and Dr. Adams, I don't think at the fundamental level people mind people acquiring wealth if you
No,
work hard and you're able
that's
to do it.
correct.
But for public officials to do it in the midst of such poverty in their
Yeah.
own population, it is as almost like, what did the Queen say when the people said the people are starving, give them bread? She said, let them eat cake. There's an unfeelingness about it and a callousness about it. And I think that is what has people so concerned and so riled up. Nobody mind you getting, but oh my God, when people around you are hungry, and not only people, but people you have taken an oath on a Bible or a Bhagavad Gita or whatever you swore on to take care of because you're a minister or a member of the government, then there is a problem. There is a problem.
The minister, not the minister, the MP just triggered something else I have to get in here. In terms of callousness. And I remember because we've spoken about this on this same program coming up to elections. You remember Jaggy used to have his Thursday, whatever you want to call it, session. Jaglio said, I remember at least 2 or 3 times, Jaglio said unabashedly that the only thing that the opposition wants to use the oil money for is to feed the people. Now, how more basic could you get than feed? And the first time I thought that he aired his slip of the tongue, the man said it about 2 other times on 2 other sessions. The only thing that they want to do with the money is feed the people. So that gives you an indication of the callousness and, all they're thinking about is to enrich themselves and to hell with that 58% or whoever else gonna suffer. So we see the same thing here happening. I could get a farm that is 155. Heaven knows how I came by it, but you got to struggle to get a little bitty plot that could hardly hold a house.
Dr. Vincent Adams and Amanza Walton here tonight,
But Dr.
making the
Hines,
link. Yes,
Dr. Hines, it's the new plantocracy.
yes,
It is
yes,
it is a group of people who now see themselves as the masses of this country.
yes.
And everybody else are their servants and their slaves and their subjects.
Mhm.
People don't realize that the day of subjects have gone. Those days have gone.
I said, well, partner, everything that you just said was true. Money today have no value. And if you argue, people going to say that you're funny and tell you how you can't eat the money. It's true you can't push the money down your throat, but people still not getting the money's worth. And the vendors and them so fierce, they just raise the price when something gets scarce. 90 cents a bunch of Cressel. Pak choy is $1.50 a bundle. 75 cents now for potato. Some places is $6 for tomato. Callaloo bush, $1.50 in tongue. And carrot selling now $2 a pound. So if you brave to still go in the market, I could tell you that you're only taking basket. Badado, babado, badado. Badadada, babada. Now when you have to compare all them prices of food stuff, the salaries today are not enough. You notice up to now I have not mentioned the grocery. That is more headache and a fresh set of money. Apart from that is light bill and rent to pay. God alone know how people are making out today. I could tell you then, people catching the aunt, uncle, and nenen. 350 now a pound for shark. Carrot is $4, that ain't no skylark. $6 for redfish, that is advantage. Some places is $5 a pound of cabbage. Ripe fig 180, green fig 45. Poor people only struggling to survive. Imagine cauliflower, $5 a head. So it's cheaper to buy marijuana instead. Ba-do-do-ba, ba-ba-do, ba-do. I'm bound to offer some solution before I conclude. Get a kitchen garden and plant your own food. But then again, everybody don't have their own backyard. So government must control prices in Trinidad. Subsidize farmers and increase salaries. And in a case like that, we bound to get a ease. And then clamp down on this racket about the scarcity of goods and the black market. A pound of garlic now is $4.15, $5 a pound now for Christophine. Pumpkin is $1.50 if you please, and in the shell is $3 for pigeon peas. 14 ounces of saltfish is $3.69. It's like pushing the umbrella up from behind. A chicken is $9 and $1.50 to pluck. So it's cheaper to buy feed and raise your own cock.
The Calypsonian there and Lord Relator is singing that in 1981. 45 years ago.
Yep.
He wasn't living in Guyana of 2026, but in the Caribbean prophetic tradition, the Calypsonian is in the present, but he's also projecting far into the future. And one would think, by the way, Vince, that's the man that sing Gavaskar.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
That's what he said. Lord Relator. The prices, and as the Calypsonian does, he lays out the problem, she lays out the problem, but he said, well, here's the solution. The government got a role to play. Subsidize small farmers. And he go on, the Calypsonian now becomes the economist, and is telling the politician how you got to get rid of prices. And so therefore, if ordinary people, because that Calypsonian represents the voice of the ordinary people, they understand what they're feeling with prices every day. And they understand at the end of the day is the government. Because if you left it to the vendors got to lift too. So sometimes the lady selling sours up. We say, man, when you raise the prices, sours up. But she is a worker. I know she's selling there. And she's not the problem. As Relator say, you can tell me if you plant food, but if you don't get the land, if you don't get the thing, and so on. And so ultimately, it is the government's role to deal with prices. And Jack, a few months ago, admit that prices are too high. But the government has not done anything about it. And now I think we are getting a peep into why the government is not doing anything. Because the government, through its members, are part of the economic problem that we are facing. Amanza, we don't even have a parliament that can step in and defend the people against the tyrants, the tyrants in the executive branch, the tyranny That's the word I'm looking for. The legislative branch cannot step in to protect the people from the economic tyranny of the executive branch. And so here we are. Here we are. And while I have you there on the parliament, you served in the parliament before, wasn't the best experience, but you're serving under this parliament, the 13th parliament, the mother of all abuse of the legislative branch of government, almost a year. And how many sittings? 1 or 2 sittings. Amanza, I'm putting it to you because you are a lawyer, like when you all cross-examine people, I am putting it to you. You can put it to me countryman Dudu Sanko. You put it to me, Mr. Sanko, your skirt was not properly said. You can't put nothing for me to me because you've not been there. Amanza, I am putting it to you and Doc here that the parliament not meeting is not simply an institution not meeting. It's really a violation of the fundamental rights. And I'm surprised people are not going to court on these things, because it's a violation of the fundamental rights of the people. Because the right to representation is a fundamental right. That's where you get a whole branch. And when you are not making that branch meet, it means, therefore, that you're violating the fundamental right of representation. You're violating the right of the people through their representatives to oversight the executive. And so, therefore, you are in violation of the rules and the laws of the country. I'm putting that to you, Amanza and Doc.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Article 9 of the Constitution says sovereignty belongs to the people,
Yes,
who exercise it through their duly elected representatives and our various democratic organs. One key such place is the National Assembly, is the Parliament of Guyana. And to the degree that Parliament does not meet is the degree to which the sovereignty of the people is being undermined. This is the degree to which their voices are being silent. Because I tell people, and you know, Doc, we have got to reimagine Guyana and our the construction of our institutions, etc. We are representatives of the people when we go to Parliament, because that is the nature of our system. And to the degree that you're not frustrating Amanza or Dr. Hines, you are frustrating the voice and the will of the people of Guyana. But the people of Guyana as well have to embrace that understanding, so that it's not that Amanza and Dr. Hines want to go to Parliament to talk. It is that these people, by having Parliament fall silent, they're literally putting their hands over your mouth. And you are taking it because you confuse personality with principle, and you confuse what the Parliament is there to do. And I think we have to keep speaking to our people so that they understand that they voted for us and sent us to Parliament to represent them. I think, Doc, you talk about the courts, etc. One of the things that I'm never afraid to do is to walk up the court step and challenge things. And I truly believe that this is a matter that should be tested. About Parliament, they will say to you, oh, there's a case that has said that the court cannot regulate parliamentary proceedings, etc. Then I believe that ought to be challenged, because the court performs the balancing of these two arms of government, of which it is the third. And so if you are saying, I can't touch that, what you are in effect saying is that there is an imbalance and we do not have the power to correct it.
Yes.
And it particularly becomes critical when you think about the way our system works, where if you got 51% of the vote, you have 100% of the say. The role of the court becomes critical and paramount. And I am not of the mindset that, oh, if you know you're going to win a case, don't try it. Me, I would march them up the court steps, up and down, because I believe that the law must be tested. I believe that the law must be clarified, and that is how you grow a country. So, Doc, it is a travesty. We had to pressure them to call Parliament. They called Parliament on the 5th of June. A month later, we still don't have Parliament. They've brought 6 or so pieces of legislation to the National Assembly for first reading. We haven't done second reading yet, and recess comes into play on August 10th. You know what they will do? They will call Parliament one more time and have us there from 10 in the morning to 10 the next morning. An abuse of people and their humanity, and robbing the people of scrutiny, because nowhere in the world is that nonsense done. What should happen, and what I would encourage, is for all the opposition parties to come together and put a motion that the standing orders be amended to include a minimum time for the meeting of Parliament. Every other jurisdiction in the Caribbean has it. They have scheduled Parliament. So in Trinidad, for example, there are 2 houses. One meets Tuesday, one meets Thursday. And they have, Parliament can't meet, once it's in session, it must meet at least every 14 days. Now, people may say, oh, if the government don't have business, then why should it call Parliament? But it is not the government's business alone.
That's right.
Every fourth sitting of the National Assembly belongs to the opposition. And that is the opportunity for the opposition to bring whatever laws we want to see amended. If there are motions that we want brought and debated, that day belongs to us. So if they never get to the fourth sitting, the opposition never gets to set out what its legislative agenda for the country will look like and to have it debated. The only time that happened, I think, was when there was a minority parliament in our recent history, and the laws got to Ramatar's desk, but he never signed them. Notwithstanding that, there was robust debate, and the opposition was able to demonstrate that we are capable as well of running this country, because remember, an opposition is a government in waiting. And so you have to not only oppose and criticize, but you have to demonstrate to the people that if power is to change hands tomorrow, we can do this and we can run the country just as well, if not better. I'm sure with this crop of PPP people, far better than the current government is doing. And so there has to be outrage. People must be outraged by this, because you're not robbing us. You are being complicit in yourself being robbed when you don't object to this.
You know, I'm coming to you, Doctor. Amanza, if there are young aspiring lawyers in the audience, we just want you all to know, the court cannot tell the Parliament what law for pass, but it can compel, in its ruling, it can tell the Parliament you need to pass a law. It can't dictate to the Parliament, but it can say this is law, right? The court, sometimes the court could make a ruling that becomes law. So Roe versus Wade was not a law passed by Congress. Roe versus Wade was a ruling made by the court. And since Congress didn't act contrary, that ruling becomes law. So the court has tremendous power. But our jurisprudence is so conservative that we in these parts don't realize that the court could make a ruling that eventually becomes the law of the land, although it's not a lawmaking body. Just want to throw that in there. Amanza, I'm coming to you, Doctor. Mm-hmm. Amanza, and I like you tonight, you know, Claudia Jones was a female activist from Trinidad. She operated in America, and a professor wrote a book on her a couple of years ago. Claudia Jones to the left of Karl Marx. Now, I ain't Karl Marx, but I like when people go to the left of me. You operate to the left of me tonight. They gotta get up and do something for themselves. I like it. Tell me what happened with your case before the CCJ.
Well, yes, we had the CCJ hearing on the 16th. One of our candidates, Crystal Fisher, brought a case. And, I will say this before I proceed. A lot of people had a lot of things to say. Oh, Amanza wants attention and this and that. And we persisted. We were slapped with like $4 million costs in the low courts because Anil, Anil asked. Anil Nandal asked that a school teacher pay $4 million in costs because she dared to ask a constitutional question. That is the contempt that these people have for Guyanese. So we persisted. We went to the Court of Appeal. It also didn't go away, and so Miss Fisher, and indeed with our support, and that is clear, appealed to the CCJ, and we had a very good hearing. I believe, and I would strongly recommend that any Guyanese interested in constitutional law and political arrangements and the rights of citizens ought to listen to the way that was parsed before the court. I think Vivian Williams did an amazing job at helping us to understand what is the nature of the right to vote. Because if you remember, the case that was brought was that, look, Roper says that if you meet the minimum of six regions, geographic constituencies, that if you contest 13 seats, then you qualify for the election. You recall as well that GCOM's own materials said that there were 3 different elections: general elections, geographic constituency elections, and regional elections. Right? But for administrative purposes, you know that our ballot has 2 parts. Now, mind you, all of this problem will go away if we give Guyanese a ballot with 3 parts. Because remember, our parliamentary system is set up that where 25 seats are taken from constituencies and 40 seats for the national election. And so our point is, once we enter the race and we meet the minimum requirement, even if we do not contest at the constituency level, we ought to be able, and any person who votes in that region ought to have the full menu of parties that meet the minimum requirements, right? No. Looking at it from a party perspective, that is from the voter side, it means that even though the people in Region 9 are qualified to eat the same food as the people in Region 4, GCOM is saying, no, you ain't getting the same food. We're giving you this kind of food. I'm using the analogy of the food in the restaurant because that's what the court used to sort of simplify what is going on. From the party perspective, now, if you were to flip it, it would mean that if you follow the court's ruling to its logical conclusion, that if, for example, all of the political parties decide that they're not going to contest in Region 1, there's no ballot for Region 1. Right? So even though they're contesting in 9 other regions, there's no ballot for Region 1 because parties decide they're not going to do it. So it was a superb, I think, exploration of our political arrangements. And this is why Forward Guyana was founded, because we believe that a lot of things have gone unchallenged for too long and that people have been shy to ask questions. So when we take certain steps, it's come with a lot of cussing. I get cussed for left in the PNC. I get cussed. But you talked about that quote that Martin Carter talked about, carving a monument in time. Doc some of us have got to be serious about asking the hard questions and got broad enough shoulders to take the licks when we ask the hard questions, because we know that Guyana will benefit at the end of the day when these things are clarified. So we are okay to sacrifice temporary comfort and approval if it redounds to the long-term benefit of the people of Guyana. And so for us, whichever way the court rules, an important principle has been established. An important gap that we have to close has been established. And Anil Nandlal said something about the qualifications on the right to vote. I don't think Guyanese knew that their right to vote was qualified qualitatively. So it means that with law reform happening now, these are all things that we have to address. So for us, it is a victory in and of itself, in that it has raised the consciousness of the people of Guyana. I have had people who are in politics for a long time say, but we didn't understand that it was a different ballot in different regions. A lot of people said, oh my God, we didn't understand it. And I said, that's fine, because the matter was never ventilated before, because you've always had two big parties that could do, as they wanted in terms of getting their lists and so on ready. So it was never questioned. But Dr. Hines, I submit to us that our democracy is changing, and you are seeing the emergence of independent voices. You're seeing the emergence of smaller political movements, and they have a role to play in our evolution. And for us, we felt a little vindicated because the Carter Center agreed with our perspective. And so, despite the cussing and so on, we we feel good about how far we have come. And so we look forward to the court's ruling in this matter.
In this matter, Thurgood Marshall always said that the role of the court is not to restrict rights, but to expand rights. And this is a question here. If I were a judge, I would ask, how does putting small parties on the ballot in every constituency, how does it upset the integrity of the election? I would ask them to answer that.
A judge asked that question. One of the judges asked the question. They said, but okay, so what is the violence that is done?
Done.
One judge went as far as to say, so okay, let us suppose that there's a party, but they're not on the list of ballots. How does a person vote if it's for a party of their choice?
That's right.
Said that you got to vote for a party of your choice. Do you know what jurisdictions like the US and Canada did? Because the element of choice is so integral and sacrosanct to the vote. I must vote for who I want to vote for. They provide for the write-in vote, so that on a ballot, you could literally write in the party that you want to vote for. And you gentlemen operate in that jurisdiction, you know what I am talking about. And so we have to be brave enough to test.
I'm glad to hear that the judge asked that, because it is my disappointment with our High Court and our Court of Appeal. Because for me, as a layman, the one thing in university on law and so on, but it's rudimentary. You ask, how does what these people are asking for, how does it upset the integrity of the electoral process? And if you can't answer that, court case closed. But that case went through 2 of our courts without that question being ventilated. And I'm not passing aspirations on our judges. I'm passing aspirations on our judicial system that is so grounded in a kind of conservatism, that it just reads the law in terms of the letter and not the spirit of the law. That a constitution and laws of a country are living instruments. You can't park laws in 1820 and 1830, written in 1820 and 1830, but you now have to give life as the judge and the judicial officer. You have to give life to that which was written in 1820 or 1920, and we're now in 2026. But anyhow, I am a lawyer, you's the liar, and so there's your story. Doctor, you are the environmentalists, and as we would say in the village, you buy Adams. You gonna talk about the people water contaminated and all kind of story. And you know you're not get your luck side. But I am pleased to inform you that I heard through the grapevine that the people Lord, what is this? Are you all hearing me?
We're here, Doc. We can see you and hear you.
We hear you.
Oh, okay. I heard through the grapevine that the people buy thing for sanitize the water. Is that true, doctor?
Well. The short answer is yes, but I'm going to get back to that. But I want to get back to this whole thing about the legal issue in Parliament. And last week, again, it's about this guy who cannot help himself, Nandalal.
Yes.
Last week, if you recall, and you remember when I had the symposium for APNU a few weeks ago, I remember what I said in the context of independence, and what I said. Guyana is not a democracy in the way that it is functioning for all the reasons articulated by our great MP. You cannot have independence without a proper democracy. So that was my conclusion, and I articulated several examples as to why Guyana is not a democracy. So, and on top of that, I have never been a believer, I guess because I grew up in the American model of governance. I've never been a fan of the Westminster model. For the three pillars of a democracy, which should be independent, are of course legislative, judicial, and the executive branch. In Guyana, the two branches are the same.
It refused.
That is the problem. And I said that last week. I said you have the same members of the cabinet who are in the legislative, who are in the executive branch, and they are the legislative branch. That is not three pillars of democracy. There is no independence. So, and especially this government, they're abusing it more than anything else. So I talked about that. You know what this ignorant man got up and said? He spent almost over half of his time attacking what I said on your program last week. He said, well, I talk about all this kind of stuff and how even in the United States, you don't have, even in the United States, you can't find anybody who's in the cabinet and who is not in the legislative branch. I mean, how could you be so ignorant to not know that the American system is totally different and totally independent, by the way, as we all know.
Strict separation of powers.
And this man, doesn't know, like a party doesn't know that. He's so ignorant. The man said he specifically said, not even in the United States where this doesn't happen. But anyway, going back to the
strict separation of power and checks and balances.
And checks and balances, those are the key words.
And they call it the Madisonian model. If you tell me Attorney General don't know that, let me see the walk of whip in Parliament.
I saved the video. I saved the video because I don't think for the Attorney General of the nation to say something as stupid as that.
Anil Nandlal, I want to say to you, gentlemen, Anil Nandlal does not care. You have to understand that when Nandlal and these fellas speak, they speak to provide fodder to their sycophants, to run out there and to carry the message.
Yep.
He don't care whether he's right or whether he is wrong. This is why they're comfortable doing it. And it is to the point. Listen to me. We are the laughing stock of the Caribbean, you know. We are the laughing stock of the world, you know. People do not understand how people hold us in derision. And the first thing they ask is, what y'all Guyanese people doing about it? How you all are allowing this in your country? Guyana is a study for people outside of Guyana because of just how much nonsense we accept, even if it's from politicians within our own political parties. You know, so that I want to ask us, let us not come off of this question of reform just yet.
Absolutely.
I think you've hit upon something there, Doc. about the executive and the legislature being fused.
That's
And
right.
we're talking about electoral reform. And I want to submit to us that we must make a big hubbub about changing this system. If we got to
Absolutely.
go back to a bicameral legislature, so be it. If we have to have a house at the top and a house at the bottom, then if that is what will make Guyana move forward as a multicultural, multi-ethnic society, then we have to be brave enough in our time to say that that is what has to be done. I have heard Anil Nandlal say in the case yesterday that, oh, how now we challenging this? 6 elections have been held with this model. So that means that it is right.
It
That
is
means that it must go unchallenged.
as
And
Yep.
that is the mindset of the man that is the chief lawyer of the state that
Yep.
ought to be the guardian of the constitutional rights of Guyanese.
Yep.
That is
you
his
know.
mindset.
And here is a blatant example of this abuse that I've always used. We all remember the famous parent company guarantee for an oil spill.
Uh,
You remember the famous Judge Kissoon's ruling. Do you know if while this case was still in litigation and the appeal, Parliament, as the MP knows because she was in Parliament, they went in and passed an oil spill bill to override Judge Kissoon's ruling. So that's with using their one seat majority at the time. So that is so when this guy talk foolishness, but this is something that people need to know that this man doesn't. He's so damn ignorant. He doesn't even know what
I,
exists in.
I know Yankee.
Yeah,
I know he talk, and so now you start stripping it. But
Here's
I'm
here's something else that he said to show you how stupid and ill-informed he is. My good friend and one of our famous lawyer, Melinda Janke, who's been fighting in the environmental cases. The man come out and abuse down Melinda in public, said that Melinda knows what she's talking about, and the EPA Act says this, and she wasn't even around when the EPA Act was written. Guess who wrote the EPA Act? Melinda Janke. And this man is saying she wasn't nowhere wrong. She didn't know what she's talking about. And she was the one who wrote the EPA Act. That is to show how ignorant and foolish this man behaves.
You walk on the volcane whenever they call
But
Parliament.
anyway, to get back to the GW, to the
Yes,
water.
the water story.
Imagine water is the most basic and most critical substance to human being. More than oil, more than water is equivalent to air that you breathe. You cannot do without the two. And in Guyana, these people have the north. But again, it gets back to what we started talking about with the farm. They just believe that people are foolish. What you see and smell and hear is not what exists. Here it is. You have I have to tell you, I live in Guyana to see that brown bronzy water, and they're telling you it's okay to drink it. It's only aesthetics, even though the science says. For example, the acidity is 630 times the minimum acidity that is under the regulation, 630 times. And they're telling, so when I wrote about it now, they come back and say that I misrepresented it and all kinds of stuff, which is absolute rubbish because the facts, the science doesn't lie. And even your eyes don't lie. I don't care what the science says. And I see that water that looks like that, I'm not drinking it. I don't care who tells me to drink it. And I wanted them to show me that any one of their government officials are drinking that water. Let them get on television and take a glass of that water from the pipe and drink it. That should be what they want to be. But guess what? I heard the same. I was informed also, Dr. Hines, that just a couple of days ago or so, they've made a big order for aluminum sulfate. Well, guess what aluminum sulfate does? It removes the grounds from the water. So what that is telling me is that they have not been treating the water that they're putting in the pipe for people to drink. So now they've placed a big order for aluminum sulfate to flocculate all of that grums and take it out to the water. That's what, they placed a big order to get aluminum sulfate. But it just, again, to show you, with all of the oil money, they don't care about people's health.
That's what it is.
And the environment. Go drink it. Go kill yourself.
Yeah.
And when we get sick, we're going to go to the United States or Canada or someplace else. We get flown out with a helicopter or whatever it is, and you stay there and suffer the consequences. But go drink it. Go drink stuff that is dangerous to your health. That's what we're dealing with in this country.
Amanza Walton MP, Dr. Vincent Adams, environmentalist, a political activist, and here tonight, stimulating conversation as usual. Not me say so, you say. Not me say so, you say so. Y'all using big word for me here tonight, stimulating discussion and so on. But I love you all very much. Abigail Abrams, I love you, love you, love you. Shelley the Ritter, always with us here. Sherry Jeffrey, all of you. Eve, Lynette Zephyr McGill, Lynette. Lynette is my friend, Doc. Years. Memorial Day weekend, we used to hold a big Bostonian Guyanese party. The whole of New York, Brooklyn used to come and so on. And of course, the Bostonians used to stay at me and my brother's their house. And Lynette come there, and Lynette does run the house. When Lynette, they come, when you see they cook, even me can't go open the pot till they solve. They tell me play because they in charge of the house. Me never hear Lynette talk about politics. When the social media thing start, and we started, me see Lynette up on every program. I said, but we was catching Morgine. I said, Morgine, me and you is friends since I was primary school. You never hear you. She said, I will never used to talk politics in front of you because we say you is the politics man. And when we come by, you a party, not for talk politics. This thing has pulled out a lot of people who you never know had a political bone in them. And they are more political. And these are people who are close to me. But I said, we wanted to give you a break. We come to party, so we are going to engage you in politics, but we were always paying attention. And that's part. There's the up and the down, huh? And that's, I think, the up of this moment is the way in which social media has democratized our society in many ways. And I agree with you, Amanza. It's for us now to take what social media has given us and to turn it into a real democratic ethos. What we have is a democratic opening, but we have to turn it into a democratic ethos so that we can turn this democracy on its head. I am where you are, Doc. We ain't got a democracy, but dialectician would say, well, we do have a democracy, but it's stand up on the head. And we got turn it up on the foot.
But Doc, we understand that it wasn't perfect, but at least it was working up to this point. We understand if you have the majority in parliament, okay, they got the vote. But this here is being abused, for example, when you're not holding meetings to even raise issues and have a debate over it. The United States, this is not independent. The United States got to tell you to hold a meeting.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And then when you hold a meeting, it's just for a couple hours to pass a bill because of that the executive branch wants to say, well, okay, we want 50 or how many billions of dollars. The same executive branch brings it to the House, and then the same executive branch voted to the majority. Now you tell me, if that's not a conflict, and craziness, I don't know what else is.
You see, it's a conflict, but it is a conflict, I want to submit to us. The problem that we have is that we've set up a political system and institutional arrangements that depend on the conscience of the office holder. And that is a mistake.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct.
A mistake. And if you look around the world, you will see that, in certain jurisdictions, even though heads of state try to go beyond a certain thing, their institutions say, hold on.
Yes. Yeah.
But we continue to make the mistake of believing that we could keep arrangements that and oh, well, look, let me just depend on the fact that it's a good buy or a good girl, get it. That does not work. You have to
Yeah.
set the system up. You have to assume bad actors and set the system up to resist them. And Doc talk about a democratic opening. And this is me, he just butted a little bit. I agree about the democratic opening. And I keep saying that the emergence of parties like Win, Forward Guyana, etc., is indicative of a particular appetite in the people of Guyana. And we will be erring if we
Absolutely.
ignore that appetite and try to put them back into these camps. We will be missing the democratic opening that is being asked of us. It will require us to
Absolutely.
be stretched, right? Because we've never been here before. It will require us
Yep.
to be brave because unfamiliar things are naturally threatening. Because I know about this. We are comfortable with this here. So, but our country will never develop beyond that because we cannot have a system that does not assume that bad actors will take the helm. Bad actors have taken the helm, and the Guyanese people are paying the consequences. The most practical example is the Cybercrime Act. Is the Cybercrime Act passed with a particular intention, but being weaponized to silence critics of the government. And so, this crisis of civic imagination, Doc, we as the leaders have got to rise up and address this moment and lead. Leaders must lead.
Leaders must
Yep.
lead. Amanza mentioned a few minutes ago about the fact that we have a unicameral legislation, meaning that we just have one house. Our brothers and sisters in the Anglophone Caribbean, they all have a second house, the Senate. In the United States, they have it called the House of Lords. And the House of Lords has what is called a soup.
In the UK.
In the UK.
In UK,
Yes,
right.
yes, House of Lords. And they have in the House of Lords, it has a suspensory veto. When a law is passed by the House of Commons, the lower house, it goes to the House of Lords. They can hold that bill for 6 months and don't give their assent to it. After 6 months, of course, it has to go through to the head of state. But by holding it for 6 months, what they do is that they put that bill into the public domain. They put that law into the public domain for discussion and so forth. So as we talk about constitutional reform and constitutional change, perhaps Doc and Amanza, that's something that we need to talk about, the value of a second house
Yep.
of
Yep.
our legislature. It's not the people say, well, these things will hold up government. Well, what's what gonna happen if a bill, if the pensions bill take another 6 months to pass? What gonna happen? What gonna happen? You're going on as though these bills need to be passed immediately as the government want them to pass. No. We have to have institutions in the system that, as you said, Amanza, to say, stop, not so fast. The select committee idea is fine, right? But that is limited. We need something. We need another house of our parliament to serve as a check on the lower house.
You see, my of course, you're British folks. I grew up in the United States system. Basically, I loved where accountability, and those folks in Congress and in the Senate, they're held accountable to the taxpayers, not to the politicians. They've got to go there, and if they fail their community, they're voted out. So there's no,
and when you look at something in the United States, such as the 60 vote.
I
don't know why the name is escaping me. I'm probably getting tired. Filibuster. The filibuster. The filibuster is not a law. It's not a constitutional law.
No,
it's part of the quote-unquote standing orders of.
That's right.
Of Congress. And basically, what it's saying is for you to move a bill, you have to have 3/5 of the vote That's a procedure.
That's a procedure. But
Just
you know
procedure.
the other thing that I to be honest, I just learned that in even though I was at that level of work, I never realized that even against the president. You remember this bill that just went up to the president that he refused to sign. The bill still became law after it sits on his desk for what, like a few
Yes,
days. Becomes
2/3 of
law.
votes.
You know, if you refuse to sign it, it
It
becomes
goes
law
back,
after the
and
6 days.
2/3 of votes House vote. So it is over. The president has a veto, and Congress has the right to override the president's
Override the veto from the yep.
and what that man used to do, Ramatar, is what they call in America pocket veto. But in America, you could only use a pocket veto. You wait until they come to you on your desk, and then Congress goes into recess. You don't sign.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
They play that recess trick. Yes.
Right? If the bill come to you 5 weeks before Congress go in recess, and you unsign it, it goes back to Congress. So you wait.
That's right.
Send it to me the day before Congress go on recess.
Yep.
I sit on it. Congress can't do nothing because they go on recess. So even where there are tricks in the system, the tricks are limited. They're limited.
Yep. And you can't start from having parliament forever.
That's right.
You know,
that's right. That's right. My sister, my brother, thank you all so much for stimulating discussion as my audience.
Yep. Anytime.
Here tonight. And I said last night that part of my pain in Guyana is we don't have intellectual discourse. We have academic discourses maybe. And I'm making a distinction between people who are bright, read a book, pass the exam, and people who may not be bright because they read book and pass exam, but their ability to look at what's happening around them and to make sense of it, to bring all the elements together and to make sense of it. When our foreparents said stone their bottom river in a no sonnet, they had to have science in mind. Stone their bottom river in a no house and at. You not live in one house, you not know what go on inside the house. All right? That's tremendous philosophical thought. And so therefore, it is that I miss. It is that I miss in the elite discourses. You say it, you say civic imagination. And imagination is what matters for me there. Yeah? Because man shall not live by bread alone, he has to live by imagination. Somebody had to imagine the freedom that you and Vincent and I had. Somebody had to imagine it.
Yeah.
For it to become a reality. What Professor Netterford calls the creative intellect and the creative imagination. And you put the two together, you get a Gary Sobers, you get a Bob Marley, you get a Beryl McBurney, you get Eddie Grant and Usain Bolt and whoever else. It is the fusion of the creative intellect and the creative imagination. And what bothers me with elite discourse is we can't even say standpipe discourse, because even when a lady used to cuss by the standpipe, they were cuss with no philosophy. When me auntie said, you go school, she said, me have to wear one panty, and she didn't say panty, she said something else. If me have to wear one panty, you go school. And sometimes today, I cry as a big man because she died decades ago. And what she wore one panty for, she didn't get to see it in us. And that's what I'm calling the intellect of our people. My auntie had plenty intellect. Plenty. And it pains me when we can't, as sons and daughters of enslaved people and indigenous people who underwent genocide, and Indian people who were confined to the barrack yards, people whose life was about the alienation of even themselves. They alienated from their labor. You dip on the plantation, you're cutting cane, you're doing this, but you hate the cane. It's the product of your labor, but you're
But
alienated from it. What crime? And we today cannot look back on that and say, we have to push the sky. We have to push the sky. And I'm there with you, Amanza. That's why I tell you tonight, you start the Jones. Right? Left of Karl Marx means them old-time Marxists. And when I see younger people like myself to the left of me, because if somebody got to depend on me Marxism, which I learned when I was a small boy in the 50s and 60s, and me Marxism still got rule the rules 60 years later, our society has not grown. And it's an indictment on me that I socialize in a society that has not grown. And others get sleepless nights about it. Tonight we're going to sleep good, because I think the discussion tonight took us to places in our veins where only the blood knows. I love it.
Let me finish. Because you said something there that raised goosebumps on me, Dr. Hine, and brought out the genius again in you, because there was one other genius, the foremost of all geniuses in Guyana, a guy by the name of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Bornham. And I spent a lot of time with him as a young engineer. It so happened that the well at Belfield, I was drilling that well. As a matter of fact, the well had failed. And, I was one of the 11 engineers that started the Guyana Water Authority. It's been trained specifically by UNDP. So we started the Guyana Water Authority. So I was responsible for drilling all the wells from the Demerara River east of the country. And I was drilling that well at Belfield. And every afternoon, I could not leave that well site until the Prime Minister passes, and he would stop at the well site. And I would get in the vehicle, the Land Rover, whatever he's driving, or he would come out. We'd have a chat with them, or else he would say, okay, let's go by his Belfield house. We sit down and have a beer. So that man was a philosopher. I learned so much. You know what? Why I had goosebumps? You know what? We sat there on the Belfield veranda one afternoon, and he said, do you know the difference? Do you know the difference between being bright and being intelligent?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly that's the question you just raised. That I never forget that the man said, do you know what's the difference between being bright and being intelligent? And he went off, with his philosophy. Yes. But I learned so much, I tell you, and every time I remember that man. And going back to the farm, you remember it became part of the culture and the policy of the nation. Remember, feed, house, and clothe the nation? You remember every single house had a kitchen garden? And this man was now berated by these folks because he banned foreign imports of food. But could you imagine, everybody had a kitchen garden? People never used to punish to get food, and that prices were stable. So that was the best. Let me tell you something. And I, when in all of my training as an executive in the U.S. government, I used to use that policy statement to feed, house, and vision statement. Feed, house, and clothe the nation all the time as examples. And people used to be amazed. It's the most succinct, comprehensive, fold into a very small package. That encapsulates entire nation needs and direction. Feed, house, and clothe the nation. And you remember the houses, I remember those self-help houses in Mortar and Walton and around those areas, and then feeding, like I said before. And by the way, you used to get free seeds to plant.
Yes.
Maybe free seeds to plant.
Yeah. I used to go to school 7 days a week, because Saturday and Sunday we working in the school garden.
That's right. We had a school garden too.
Yes. I am the youngest in the lot, and we had a school garden.
Yes.
The garden used to supply hot meals.
That's right.
During the for school. Gentlemen, we are a small nation. And even if we get to 1 million people, that is a mid-sized town in some parts of the
That's a
world.
small size town.
Run a mid-sized city, run by a mayor and 12 councillors.
A
That's
committee.
right.
God, my God, we can't get it right.
And by the way, for the record, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Barnum had a garden at the back of that house at Belfield.
Yes,
a garden, not a farm.
garden.
A garden, a well-kept garden. It was, to fill up his backyard like every other citizen.
And
He had no big.
in fact, when I was a little girl, the parapets were planted up, not with floral plants, but with food, pigeon peas. You could pass on with parapet and pick pigeon peas. I mean,
Yeah.
so now, and you know what pains me the most about all of this is that how we as a nation have been robbed. Simply because you don't like the idea, you don't like the man that this idea come from.
Yeah.
And we have been robbed and shortchanged by so much. And this is why I say, look, if it's a good idea, take it and run with it. If the nation benefits, take it and run with it. Can you imagine if we had taken the time to develop rice flour the way it should have been? Can you imagine, now people can't even eat gluten. We would have been one of the foremost manufacturers of those things, because for 40 years over, we would have perfected the art of it, and our people would have been so much better off. But instead, what did people do? You spread lies that this man banned flour because he want to affect Indian people to prevent them from making roti. Just evil and wicked. And that has been passed down generation to generation. And this is how you know the greatness of a man. That 40-something years after he has died, his name is being invoked because his wife owned a couple buffalo at the back of the garden to excuse a man having the vulgarity of a 150-acre farm with AC pen for the chicken and the cows.
And right next door, Amanza, right next door to the farm are people who do not have water, no electricity, forget about the air conditioning thing that the animals are enjoying. The one I saw a video where one of the residents living right next to show that they have to go down a hill to a creek to get water and fetch it back up. And
but you all are responsible for this, because let me say it, that whole thing about Burnham banning flour and to get at Indians, it's so racially, it's racial rubbish. Black people now use the same flour for make bake.
and bread.
What they've done is take a policy and racialize it. When everybody know, everybody uses flour, maybe the Amerindian people because they are their indigenous cassava and so on and thing. But wheaten flour was used equally by black people and Indian people.
But I will challenge you on that, Doc, and say that it is the fault of people who are of the PNC persuasion.
Yeah, well,
because we did not know. You see, this is why we have this attitude that we say something once and everybody understands it. PPP will repeat it day in, day out, day in, day out. You come, if I come and talk 2 times in the same week about something, Amanza, she done said already. The PPP will repeat it over. Burnham banned flour because he didn't like Indian people. He would ban flour because he didn't like Indian people. That they would repeat it over and over and over again until the lie, by virtue of its repetition, becomes a truth. And we think we could talk one time and people should get it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I'd rather that self-criticism come from you. One lady from Bellatrix, Eldorado, she said, "Me Sarge, me get your number," and she sent me a text. She said, "You keep saying that over and over." She said, "Me and mine, you said born and militarized this, but the part of me, like you said, the PPP criminalized the state, and Burnham would have never criminalized the state." And you are right, Amanza. Sometimes we take it for granted
Yep.
these things, and that's where the PPP beats us.
Yep.
They beat us, and maybe it's the communist thing, of communist
Gobelsian.
propagandizing and
Gobels. Gobels.
Gobel's thing and so on. But we have to learn that politics is not just about politicizing and politicking; it's also about teaching. And we come from a teacher. We've always been teachers. We've always been teachers. When the Great Awakening happened in the United States and in the Caribbean, where the old Christian churches, which never used to allow black people, they enslaved people to go to church and pray with them. And they didn't want to read the Bible. They had good sense. And then these new churches, Seventh Day Adventists and so on, came on the scene. And they start to invite the enslaved people to go to church and try to read. Those who could read the Bible, and they called it the first Great Awakening, and then they had the second Great Awakening. Yeah. But here is the story. They used to let the enslaved people preach. They couldn't read and they couldn't write, but they preach from the Bible. They had keen ears.
Yes.
And they were the preachers. Of course, when they don't preach, they take communion last. White people got the communion first. But at least the common slaves, as they call them, were preaching to the slave masters in a Bible that
they could read.
Yeah, but of course, when you go to the origins of Christianity, black people been there. The origins of Islam, black people been there. And so there is the historical memory of the Bible. The historical memory of the Bible. Of course, the Maccabee version of the Bible, not the King James version. Bring back Maccabee version. That belongs to the black man. Give back King James version. That belongs to the white man. Black man, get up, stand up on the foot, and give back God the glory. They brought the Maccabee gaze to the Bible, so they didn't have to know to read and write. Right? The genius, Gaffy Sitabam Sobers, never went to high school, never went to university, but with a bat and a ball in the hand, he beat all we who've been to 50 and 60 university. Today, people like myself could teach white people cricket and nationalism. One of my courses when I was when I was a professor, I remember a white boy come to me. He gave me a t-shirt. Me get you some minute look for you today. He gave me a t-shirt. Mr. Boy, why you give me a t-shirt? He said, open it. When we open, sober step on the front of the t-shirt. He take my class. And when me teach for sobers, me there first gear. Me not meet a second gear, teacher John said. Me only there first gear, me not gone a second gear yet. Before me meet a second gear, the young man went and did his research. And he found out, he said, man, Dr. Hines, that man, Gary Sobers. He said, and I work at this place that make t-shirt. And I took down from the internet and he made the t-shirt and give me.
Wow.
Sobers, an ordinary little boy. Get white people going crazy. I mean, I meet a second gear yet. Good night, my sister. Good night, my brother.
Good night.
God bless. Enjoy the weekend.
Oh my goodness. I will not be moved or kicked aside, because our work is God's work. Our work is the ancestors' work. Our work is duty. Our work is destiny. Always having a date with destiny. I'll see you all on Sunday. West Indies Cricket 101. Vincent is going to be back, and Butcher. And of course, Sunday's program is going to be dedicated to the great man himself.